I don't know why. Did he ever write a book about his stories, or are you planning on writing a book about your stories?
Gosh, I'd love to. He was written about in a
Maybe
book.
that's what it is because I keep hearing like there's a book other like it was him, the stories in the book, and I was trying to put it together as I was listening to you, so I was curious.
Yeah, there's a book called Yoga, Youth and Reincarnation by Jess Stern, I believe. In fact, it's interesting because my father and my aunt were just here visiting, and we were going through his material, and we were rereading the parts of the book that's talking about some of his cases and some of the proof.
Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde. Hello, my loves. Today we have a very special guest, Susan Lyons. She is a board certified regression therapist and spiritual hypnotherapist. For over 13 years, she's had the privilege of guiding souls through through past life regression, energy healing, and spiritual hypnotherapy to support awakening, healing, and integration. Her passion is helping others to explore the vast cosmos within themselves and reclaim the deepest truths of who they are. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk to you.
Yes.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about who you were and if there was a transformational or pivotal moment that helped you become who you are today.
Yes. So the transformation happened. So my previous history in work was helping people, but more in the fashion and cosmetic industry. And I found myself at a certain point in my life where I wasn't feeling creative, I wasn't feeling fulfilled, and I realized and just felt deep down inside that I had another purpose, that I was here. Um, for on this planet. And so I literally went outside in my backyard one day and sat down, and I knew that I had guides around me. I could feel them, I could sense them even as a younger person. But in that moment I was like, okay, let me know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm asking for your help. Please show me what my purpose is. And
Right.
literally the words hypnotherapy spelled themselves out to me. And if I back up just a little bit before that, my grandfather was a past life regression hypnotherapist and a psychologist back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And when he passed away, I asked for all of his material. So I had that sitting in my home, and every once in a while I would revisit it, but I had not until that moment ever thought that this would be my purpose.
Right.
And I felt so inspired at that moment that I started going through things again and then started looking for hypnotherapy schools and didn't find one right close to me right away, but I kept looking. And then, like a couple months later, I found a school that was literally like 7 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow. That's close.
Yes. And so I felt like, okay, I feel the calling to do this. And I went to the open house and literally never left. I also teach for that school now. All of the teachings are now online, but at the time that school was in Lafayette, California, HCH Institute, and it changed my life. That moment was the pivotal moment that totally changed everything for me.
Wow.
Like,
So growing up with that grandfather, and you saying that you kind of always sensed your guides around. So do you feel like you never, I mean, most of us, we turn it off at some point in childhood. Do you feel like you never turned yours off? You feel like you were always somewhat in tune with what was going on around you?
I might have been in tune, but not understanding what was
Yeah.
going on and knowing that I was different and more sensitive than others. So probably dumbed it down a lot,
Yeah.
right? You get those messages, you've got a really great imagination,
Yeah.
which, sounds like a compliment, but at the time it's like, wow, you've got a really rich imagination. So, yeah, so felt different as a kid, definitely more sensitive, and was definitely even at a young age, really into, the unknown, lover of all things spiritual, the occult, metaphysical. Even if I didn't have a name for it, I had a big interest in those things. So it's pretty interesting that, it comes around full circle
Yeah.
many, many years later. And I was, my grandfather was living down south. I was in Northern California. So it's not like I had a lot of exposure to him. But
Oh,
whenever
okay.
I was around him, I was always fascinated by him and how he talked about past life regression specifically. That was his focus, and that was my focus. That was why I was drawn into this work as a hypnotherapist.
Yeah. And during those times for him to be that, like that stuff was so underground or so taboo back then. Like, I wish he was still alive just so I could ask him some questions about how he handled it back then, you know?
Yeah. Well, he was also a very distinguished looking businessman.
Yeah.
So he was also kind of doing this on the side. So because of his presentation and he looked distinguished, I think people took him more seriously. And
Yeah.
interestingly, he was very interested in hypnotherapy and he was a psychologist, but he kind of tripped over the whole past life regression thing. He actually started studying it to debunk it because he
I
was all
love
about the
that.
fact. Yes.
Yeah.
And so he started experimenting with it, and he was like, "These people are telling similar stories about how they're coming back again, reborn again." So initially, he wanted to debunk it. The whole famous case of Bridey Murphy, he sought out to debunk that. Bless you. Um, and then ended up proving himself incorrect. So, so I think that's pretty interesting. And he was also very focused on validating facts.
Yeah.
So this was another thing that he's like, well, people can't be making this up. There was no internet back then.
Right.
So the information wasn't as widely available. And then you've got people who've never met each other telling similar type of stories while they're in hypnosis. Then you just can't make this stuff up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Did he ever write a book about his stories, or are you planning on writing a book about your stories?
Gosh, I'd love to. He was written about in a
Maybe
book.
that's what it is. Because I keep hearing like there's a book, other like it was him, the stories in the book, and I was trying to put it together as I was listening to you, so I was curious.
Yeah, there's a book called Yoga, Youth and Reincarnation by Just Stern, I believe. In fact, it's interesting because my father and my aunt were just here visiting, and we were going through his material, and we were rereading the parts of the book that's talking about some of his cases and some of the proof, like the validating facts.
Yeah.
And I would love to write a book about him. It's actually you probably picked that up that it's floating around in my mind. So yeah.
Well, it came across as like it almost came across like a book of his stories, but at the same time, like it also felt like it was about him. So it's probably a combination of the two, you know, because I always, it's hard when you're a channeler. You always try to turn that down when you're doing something else, you know, but the
Yeah.
stuff just pops in and it's like a squirrel. I'm like, oh, what's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that? Let's ask about that, you know? But how cool would that would be a really cool book though, you know, and especially in comparison to the work that you're doing and to what what he's already done with, especially since you have like the proof that he was going in to debunk it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's such an inspiration to me. I feel him all the time.
Yeah. I can feel him around you too. Yeah. I feel like he's like one of your biggest fans for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you utilize this in your own life, or have you utilized this in your own life?
Incredible. When I walked into that school, in my mind, I said, I'm home. Like I had found my tribe. So I finally truly was able to express my soul, my spiritual self, my inner being with like-minded individuals. So I mean, I think I blossomed as a human being because of all I learned about myself in the training and all I'm learning every single day from clients.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's just allowed me to open up to really why I'm here, not just as an occupation, but like what I have to offer energetically to the planet and to the beings around me that I have contact with. So
Yeah.
I really felt like I kept a lot of this stuff undercover before that. And now I have people that I can, groups of people that I meet with and, on the board of directors for the International Board for Regression Therapy. Those are also a group of like-minded people. And this field is expansive. And it's
Yeah.
continuing to expand. You probably know this more and more every single day as we all shift in consciousness and we're all waking up. So to
Yeah.
be a part of that feels like such an honor. It is such a
Really.
transformation. Yeah.
Hypnotherapy is such a gift, and I'm certified in hypnotherapy, but I use it a little bit differently. I really put it into my meditations that really help people to go deeper. I used to do more of that in session years ago, but I've kind of gotten away from it. But it seems to be continuously coming back up again. So who knows where the future will go? But it is such a beautiful gift. So, for those who may not know, what is the difference between regression therapy and spiritual hypnotherapy?
Well, I would say, well, so regression therapy as a whole could be regressing back to a teenage experience, a childhood experience, even a pre-birth experience, right? And past life regression is part of what I call the spiritual hypnotherapy. And I want to just put a side note in here. At this point, I'm calling it other lives, even though that it's traditionally known as past life
I know.
regression.
Yeah.
But so
For
in
those
it,
who don't know why, it's because all lives are happening simultaneously. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like we're just tuning into a different
Yeah.
radio station. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so regression therapy could be this current life, and spiritual hypnotherapy also could be things from this current life, but just on a deeper spiritual level. And I'll just give a quick example that in hypnotherapy, we can do a lot of practical things, a lot of classic things like, stop smoking, weight loss, these kind of things, building confidence. But I like to go deeper. I want to go to the underneath layer, and I think
Yeah.
everything comes from spirit. So
Yes.
I want to get them there where this was created in the first place, so that if we can pull that out at the root or find some healing around the root cause, and that may be going back, to other lives, right?
Yeah.
And and so I just find that um it's getting to the root of things, and it is it's a transformation on a soul level that it's going to be lasting, maybe not even just in this lifetime now,
Right.
but then moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. Are when you're doing the other lives therapy, are you able to tap somebody into what they would perceive as a future life or a different, better version of themselves?
Yeah, I love this question. Because one of the topics we do call future life. And so we can go into what is the lifetime after this, well, because we think of it linear. Okay,
Yeah.
so we do go into a future life. How is that life? How does that life turn out? And is there anything we should be doing now so that we can alter that outcome
Yeah.
into a higher potential, right? So future life, and also in that category, I'd also say quantum jumping.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at was the
Yeah.
quantum, like jumping into a different version of yourself in this
Yeah.
reality.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And that is such a beautiful process when we can get out of our own way and move beyond our blocks, like raise our vibration to the point where we don't have those perceived limitations and
Yeah.
really just walk into that full potential, that higher vibrational state, that higher vibrational version of us. And it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful process. Oh. And
Yeah.
it moves all of those other things out of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
When you do the regression therapy, like to access a teenage version of you or a child version of you, how do the clients respond to that? Is it them seeing the past traumatic memories, or are there different things that you can help them access? What is your goal when you're working with someone to do that?
Well, the goal would be to go, if we are going, let's say we're going into a teenage year, and maybe we don't even say we're going to a teenage year. We say go to the event that created this anxiety or this lack
Right.
of self-worth or something. And they go into that moment. Sometimes they can be in the version of themselves, let's say as a teenager, re-experiencing this. And sometimes we can have them be an observer. It's simply a matter of asking the higher self, show them like they're watching a movie. If
Yeah.
you know we're going into something traumatic, it's best to actually, you can even create a movie screen. And so they're actually watching this as a movie, and they're the director of the movie. And how can they go into the screen and change the script?
Yeah.
So that we can bring out whatever the lesson was in that experience that helps to find the healing around it.
Yeah.
Another perspective of why you went through this in the first place and how we can reframe it into something positive instead of something traumatic.
Yeah. Which is huge. And to me, that's the whole point. And a lot of the healing work that I've done is, and I have that ability. It's very not easy for me to shift perspectives and see things from a different angle. And I'm grateful for that. And a lot of the things that I had to heal, that's what I would do. And when I looked at it from a different perspective, it's almost like I could see the other people who were the ones, the perpetrators of the traumatic people, like what they were going through, and that, it had nothing to do with me. It was how they were, their lack of tools, what, their lack of bandwidth to hold what they were going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that just shifts you into compassion, and it helps you to not take it personally. I did do regression therapy one time, and it was, I had a molestation when I was a child, and I started having flashback memories from time to time, but I couldn't see all the pictures. And so I went into it wanting to see, it's like I needed evidence, right? I need to see who it is. I need to see what happened. And I remember and this was in 2019, we started it, and I was in first person. Like I could see that I was the little girl. I could see where I was. I could see who was coming at me. And as the memory continued, or the screen continued, I it was so traumatic that I shifted right back into observer mode. And it was such an interesting experience for me, because usually I enter everything in an observer mode. But in that particular case, I went in as I was like in her body. It was the weirdest experience ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting sometimes that the higher self will just automatically make that switch.
Hmm.
Without sometimes people will go into a regression as an observer instead of being actually in the body, because the higher self we don't want to be re-traumatized, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously it was starting to re-traumatize me. So they
Yes.
like, let's
Yeah.
remove you and let you see it from the other perspective. And it was very helpful. I was able to heal that, which changed a lot of things in my life. And so I just want to bring that up, because I always like to give examples of where I've experienced the evidence that this works,
Yeah.
that you do play a part in it. Like you have to really allow yourself to be open to it. You have to believe in what's happening, because you can always. And have you had that experience with anybody? Have you had any clients that like kind of get in their own way or sabotage the experience when they're going through it?
Yes. Well, I mean, sometimes they have a difficult time letting go and
Yeah.
trusting the experience. And then the conscious mind starts its chatter about, why are you doing this? This is silly. You're making this up. So there is maybe because I'm a hypnotherapy teacher, I do a lot of education around these stumbling blocks before I start a session, so that we have some tools to work with while we're having the experiences to move around that. But most of the time, I will say, if people are coming for this, they're open-minded enough in the first place,
Yeah.
and curious enough that they're able to have the experience. But I wanted to I just wanted to make a note on something we were talking about earlier, and I think it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but I truly believe that we choose our life and we choose our
Hmm.
life path and our circumstances, and
Yes.
that our soul is here for the experience and on a soul level doesn't see things as good or bad.
Yes.
And so it kind of takes the blame game once we can have that level of understanding out of all of these things that are happening, we think are happening to us. They're actually
Right.
happening for us. And if we can find the lesson and the forgiveness part, if things have happened to us from others, right, is really important. And I think that's another, going back to what you're saying, another key thing where people get in their own way or sabotage when they're unwilling to forgive. And when I say forgiveness, we can forgive the person for their ignorance and not knowing better and not having the tools, not necessarily forgiving whatever the yucky thing was or the act
Right.
happened, right?
I always say forgiveness is you giving back the pain that was never meant for you to carry. It doesn't mean you forget, it just means you no longer have to hold the suffering because that suffering was not yours, it was theirs, and they inflicted it on you. And it's a choice to give it back.
That's beautiful. I love
And
that.
it's very powerful. But I agree with you. I always tell people, and it's hard sometimes for people to hear this, but I'm like, you're up there, you're creating this plan and all these people, and you're telling them, like, okay, you're going to come in and do this, and I'm going to come over here and do that. And it's all the whole point of it is because there's something that you are wanting to work through. And it isn't just for you, by the way, it's for your whole entire family line.
Yeah,
And if you decide that you're going to be a cycle breaker and you're going to be the change maker, I find that most of those people don't have an easy life.
that's true.
And I would not be who I am today if I didn't go through the years and years of horrific stuff that I went through. Like, there's just no way because it was me going through that healing process and seeing how I could transform and alchemize and take something that is pain and put it into not just purpose, but power. And that's what led me to say, I didn't want a business coach anymore. I was like, I want to do this. Like, I see what a dramatic shift it had on my own life. Like,
Mhm.
everybody needs to, experience this and know that this is an available option. It doesn't make it easier. It just showing you like, hey, it's hard. It can be challenging, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, it's so worth it. And I agree that there are those people that have more difficult lives, and I think again that's a choice. That I
Hmm.
think having a difficult life, we actually evolve on a deep
Yeah.
spiritual level faster than if we have like, let's say several, what I call vacation lives where things are
Yeah.
just, easy. And sometimes we need those for a little rest.
I tell you, I hope my next one's a vacation life.
Right.
I'm
Right.
due.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, I think we chose like, give me a tough one, because I want to move past some of these lessons. And I think when we don't heal things in a past life, in another life, right? We come into this one. If it's not healed, we put another layer on it.
Yeah.
And then we keep getting the message even louder. Please look at this so we can have some healing around it. And I would encourage anybody that has a reoccurring pattern that keeps showing up in their life that is stopping them from stepping into their full potential to be curious about why it keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Because I think it's our higher self saying, here's another opportunity yet to heal this. And so that you don't need to take this again next time. There'll be other lessons that will come up, right, for the
Yeah.
next time. But yeah,
And that's just not in multiple lives. Like, in my own personal life, the patterns kept getting more intense, louder, more suffering to the point to where I had, I mean, I still had a choice, but it was like, okay, enough's enough. I'm gonna stop and look at this and figure out how I keep falling into this same pattern. And so I always tell people, like, if you are not aware of your patterns, they're going to get louder and more intense to get your attention.
yeah,
And the only way to avoid that is to just, it's self-awareness. It's just
Yeah.
becoming aware of why you make the choices that you're making, people, places, things, all of it. And it's so powerful just in just in me recognizing my own patterns. It's allowed me to change my life completely. There's, I just can't say that enough. Like it all starts, in my opinion, in self-awareness.
Absolutely. Yes. Because when you can catch it happening in the moment, then you have the power to do something about it, to react
Yeah,
differently or something, right?
right.
Oftentimes these things are unconscious and we're not even aware that they're happening. So how can we do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just talking about this on with another guest, but you're absolutely right about it crossing over multiple lives because when I was going through my transition from business coaching into what I do now, I had the persecution wound come up,
Mhm.
right? Because I was in the time I was living in the Bible Belt. It was very taboo what I was doing, and this was only like 2016, but it was still very taboo in there. They were kind of behind the times. And I remember feeling all this shame and guilt and judgment and feeling like I was being persecuted for doing nothing. And I was sitting in bed with my husband at the time, and he started to freak out because I had these burns appearing on both sides of my neck.
Wow.
Like he was just watching them show up, and there was two giant burns, like somebody had just stuck a huge fire and burned me. And it took me a couple of days in sitting with my guides and meditation to figure out that this was, the whole burning at the stakes kind of metaphor. There was another time where I was very much persecuted. And it took me about 3 weeks to work through it on my own. But when
Wow.
I did, the burns immediately dissolved, they were gone. And that just shows you that time and space is an illusion. You're so connected to every part of yourself. And when you learn a lesson here, it's like deposited into the middle of that web and distributed out to those other lives so they can now access that information. Doesn't mean we always apply it, right? But we can access it now.
Wow, what a message from your higher self, right? With the physical
Yeah.
manifestation. That's fascinating. There's Dr. Ian Stevenson actually did studies with children that came into this life that remembered past lives that had physical manifestations. But for that to come up just at that moment, right
Yeah.
now, all of a sudden not being born with it, that's fascinating. What a clear message, right?
Well, I've always known that I'm a physical medium, and I that's not the first time I've had those kind of experiences where I can literally be somewhere and I will feel it in my body, something that happened to me in that space or whatever. And it's always been interesting. And I just now I'm so used to it that I get like a knowing and an understanding. And it's almost like it's helping me to make a different choice now that, and to learn from that, right? Because I'm able to just tap into it so clearly. But it's very powerful. But everything for me happens very physically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't recommend it. I don't think that that's a good thing necessarily, but it's just how I've experienced it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, people do have maybe not obviously the way that it came up for
Yeah.
you like this, but when people have aches and pains or like a hip problem that there's no medical explanation from that leads back
Right.
to a past life, that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
Said this is yeah.
So, what about children who are born with birthmarks and things like that? Do you think that birthmarks have just one meaning, like maybe that's where they had an injury before or something like that? Or do you have a different interpretation of what a birthmark would be?
Well, from my studying on the subject, I think it's an injury from a past life.
Okay.
It's like an imprint, right? From a previous experience. Yeah.
What is the point of that, though, in this life? What is that trying, like, I'm trying to understand,
Yeah.
like, what
Yeah.
purpose it has in this life.
That's a really great question. I'm going to say sometimes it is again the spirit reminding the individual to be curious about what's going on and to look at what may have happened on a soul level, not just like in this current incarnation.
Right.
Um, like whatever the balancing is happening or the manifestation is happening. I guess to get curious, again, higher self poking us to really look into who we are on a soul level and not just look at what's happening in our life right now at this very moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you work with children?
I haven't worked with any young children. I love working with younger people. I worked with some teenagers. Yeah. Yeah.
And do they have memories?
Yes. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. And this is something that I love when you get somebody who's like 15 or 16 years old being interested in this is like that right there tells me we are having a shift in consciousness.
Right.
Even just since I started doing this work, younger and younger people are waking up and they're waking up earlier. And I mean, I think some of the children coming into this life are coming here already awake. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something that I've been talking about for years is there were certain dates that I had channeled where that there was a shift and the children are coming in what they call more crystalline instead of the density that we're trying to alchemize, and while I remember seeing beings as young as 3 and having, precognition and all of that as a young child, I shut mine off. And while I shut it off, I always called myself spiritual. I didn't know what it meant. I was
Yeah.
obsessed with people like Sylvia Browne, the medium that used to be on
Yeah.
Montel Williams. I was
Yeah.
obsessed with aliens, and helping people. I used to line up my stuffed animals and, do all the weird, little session here. But it's weird how it kind of stays with you, even though you, like you said, like you don't really have a comprehension of it, but I feel like the children today, they're just not doing that. And my nieces and nephews, they love coming into my space because that's like they want to play with the crystals, they want to play with the cards. They can see my father who passed away, and they can recognize him and it's just it's such a beautiful thing. And I have been so blessed that, my brother and sister-in-law have let me foster that instead of like being taboo.
What a beautiful thing what you're talking about right now for any children that can be in environments where instead of being told they've got a rich imagination, that they're
Yeah.
encouraged to be intuitive and encouraged to be curious and to pay attention on an energetic level to what's
Yeah.
going on around them. I have this thing, like this other kind of like programming I feel like we're in, we're told like if you see it, you believe it. We're
Yeah.
not taught to trust our inner knowing or our intuition, which is
Yes.
even more powerful
Hmm.
because energy is all around us and much of it we can't see with our eyes. So if we
Yes.
can start to trust and to feel into it, it really does change everything.
It really does.
So
So, is
yeah,
there any cool information that you've learned through doing your work that has just kind of stuck with you?
gosh, yes. I would say the one thing that sticks with me when we're visiting other lives, our last thoughts, feelings, and emotions before we cross over is very powerful. And in a past life regression, we'll also look at, the death experience and then what happens after the death experience, which is the in between. That is a very fascinating place. And that is the place where we bring in all of the healing. And so whatever that last thought, feeling, and emotion is oftentimes an important thing to know and to work with and to find some healing around because it literally can collapse everything. It can collapse that whole belief. Like, for example, somebody that's last thought, feeling, emotion. I'm never going to have children. Maybe they lost a child in the other lifetime, right? I'm never going to have children again. The loss is too painful. And they come into this lifetime and they're unable to conceive. So just that breaking up the energy around that last thought, feeling, and emotion can really completely change the energy around that. And then the person's able to conceive. So I think our intentions, I guess that's the big nugget, are so important to be intentional with our words and our thoughts and what we
Hmm.
are putting out into the universe around us for ourselves and also for others, right? Because
Yeah.
we're co-creating this experience.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's called spelling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Our words are very, very powerful. That is that just blew my mind. Like, I mean, the way you put it was so perfect. Like somebody having another life where they crossed saying that and then not being able to conceive and then healing that energy and then them then able to conceive. Like that is powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another really powerful one. Somebody who, a healer in this lifetime, is feeling blocked from using their gifts.
Hmm.
And as they're crossing over, their last thoughts, feelings, and emotions before they die is not safe to share my gifts.
Yeah.
Right?
So when you go into a session, let's just say you get someone who goes in the session and they say, like you just said, I feel blocked with my gifts. You don't necessarily know where they're going to go, right? To where that was created, but that's what happens. That's the spot that they end up with and what comes back to them.
Yeah. Oftentimes we will go in with an intention, like they're saying, I'm having this issue, like I feel stuck and I'm blocked with my gifts. We
Yeah,
don't know where they're going to go.
right.
My job is to hold the space for them and to ask open-ended questions so that they have an experience. And there's different layers to, like the skills or work I did in the past or the other life, the other souls that I knew in that life, and if I knew any of them here, the dwelling where you live, the death experience, etc. But we don't know. There's places that we'd like them to explore within the past life, but the job of a hypnotherapist or a past life regressionist would be to ask open-ended questions
Yeah.
and to be able for them to tell their own story. I'm not
Yes.
projecting a story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not guiding them with information. Yeah,
No,
no. Yeah.
no.
And that's the whole thing is like, and I think where I've experienced with clients where they do sometimes get in their head and second guess, and then the other ones, they're always, I always recorded mine. And so people would always come back and after they listened and be shocked at like, did I make that up? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you didn't
Right.
make it up,
Right.
but they can access details sometimes that are so clear that it often makes them wonder if they made it up.
Yeah, for sure. And oftentimes the statement I'll get when people come out of um, a regression is, "Oh my God, that's not what I thought was going to happen."
Right.
That to me tells me they're not making this up. Their
Yeah.
conscious mind was not involved in the narration of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long are your sessions typically? How long do they last?
Well, a past life regression or the kind of the things that I'll say are in the spiritual hypnotherapy category are usually around 2 hours, have gone as long as 3 hours. Yeah.
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 Have you studied any of the work of Dolores Cannon?
I've read several and many of her books.
Yeah.
Yes. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, that's another one of the things that's in my little toolkit that I love, love, love to explore is non-human incarnations.
I was going to ask, that was my next question. Have you
Yeah.
have you
Yeah.
explored any of
Yeah.
those?
Yes. And what an array of different experiences from somebody being inside of an animal, having a past life as an animal.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. Having a past life on another planet, having a
Yeah.
past life as just and as just a form of energy, having a past life as a blade of grass, or having a non-human incarnation rather as a blade of grass.
I
And
would love to be a tree.
yeah, God. And the descriptions that people that come up with are so detailed, you cannot say that this is a fantasy.
Right.
It's too visceral. They're having a visceral experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always received that our majority of our main guides are us versions of us in another time space reality. And most of my guides are interdimensional or galactic
Mhm.
beings, which has made my personal journey, um, it feels a little bit more challenging because, they don't understand the human side of things, right? Where I've connected with other people who had guides that have been human and
Yeah.
have a much more grounded approach to things, you know. Um, but I feel with my own connection, I feel very connected to those interdimensional and galactic beings. Like, I feel very connected to them. And while I have that, I have never yet to be able to tap into what that life looks like and feels like as them, you know? So I was really curious if you've had any of those experiences.
Not that people have called them other versions of themselves or necessarily guides, but they've
Yeah.
embodied that experience
Yeah.
and, I mean, are able to talk about, how the experience is very different, how like the experience of time, the way time moves is different, how it is to experience having a different form rather than a physical body.
Yeah.
Right. Being able to have the experience of not being so attached to our emotions that everything is good or bad. Everything just is,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's our judgment of it that makes it good or bad.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you believe that the cosmos are basically within us and not outside of us?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think all of this is a projection.
Yeah.
Really. I think I think our consciousness is even projecting our human body.
Yeah.
Right. And we can even change our physical human body through these altered states by changing our idea of our projection of it.
Yes.
Everything
Yes.
is consciousness and everything is unfolding around us based on our consciousness's perception of it, right? They're
Yeah.
saying, change your perception, change your life. Yes. Um,
Gotta
change your
love Dr. Wayne
reaction, change
Dyer.
your perception too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and what you believe will be. And, that's been the biggest gift for me. I'm a huge Wayne Dyer fan.
Mhm.
And I was obsessed with a lot of his books and teachings. And I learned over the years, like the more I just stated it over and over again, not necessarily information, but like full body claiming it, like, no, this is it. It's like an internal decision. And when I've done that successfully, it's like almost immediate that there is like the everything. And I literally just had one a couple of weeks ago. It was like, and immediately everything went da, 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 and it was like everything lined up and my whole life went a 180. And I was like, okay, that was fast. A little
Yeah.
overwhelming, but here we are. Okay, this is what we wanted. Let's go for it. But it's just part of the reason why I asked, like, do you believe that the cosmos are within us is because I'm a firm believer that this is all a dream. This is all
Yes.
a dream. And the more that we can wrap our brains around that, because it's really hard for the ego mind to get on board with that. But the more you can, the less personal you take this life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything and I've always heard for years from the guides, like everything's happening for you, right? But a couple of years ago, that shifted and they changed the way that they presented it to me. And they said, everything's happening for your benefit.
Yes.
And there was something about that I was like, huh. And so, as what I would normally judge something being bad, instead, in that moment when it happened, I'm like, okay, well, this is happening for my benefit. I may not be able to see it right now, but it's
Yeah.
happening for my benefit. And everything after that moment of where I started to just replace what I used to say and said that, I was like, I noticed how much less I suffered and how much less things bothered me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
And it
true.
turned out always in the end to be for my benefit.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. I love it. And that's the thing too. And yeah, yeah, like you're reframing it in the
Yeah.
moment, right?
Hmm.
You're getting the lesson in the moment. And that's so important again, like when we set our intention, we start paying attention in the moment and our behaviors aren't unconscious anymore. That's the golden moment where we realize literally how we are creating this, how powerful we are, instead
Hmm.
of creating something that's we might judge as not fun or yucky or whatever, we are we can create something really amazing and beautiful if
Yeah.
we just get out of our own way and realize how
Yes.
powerful we are. Like use that power for our like you say, our benefit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious your perspective on something. Because I know what I've channeled and I've heard a couple other people channel different things. But do you believe that we are fully the creator of our reality? Meaning, if we decide that we want something, then we can have it and that's our destiny? Or do you believe that we have a preconceived destiny and it can be different than our, well, obviously it can be different than our desires, but meaning like if tomorrow I wake up and I say, I'm going to just decide to go live on an island and, live on the beach and not work anymore and do whatever, is that going to derail me from what I'm supposed to do? Like, what's your perspective on those kind of
Yeah.
things?
I do believe we come in with some kind of
Like a roadmap?
a roadmap of what our life experiences are, what we chose to come here to learn and
Yeah.
overcome. And I think that the important pivotal points are we might not know when or how they're going to happen
Yeah.
necessarily, that there may be different ways that that can show up to learn the lesson. So I do believe we come in with I want to say loose script, but I think we also do have free will. And again, if some of this is just perception, that thing that we thought was like a bad thing, maybe somebody like had a near death experience. Oh my God, I almost died, but it turns out to be this beautiful thing because they get a lesson out of it. Maybe they've learned to talk about it with others and share the experience and change somebody else's life. So, I do believe we're also co-creating this
Yeah.
experience too on some level. But I do think we are creators and we're here to create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like, especially with like, oh, what's her name? Abraham Hicks, right? The law
Yeah.
of attraction. That's somebody who's very well known out there in the world. But I don't actually listen to a lot of her stuff anymore. But the other day I was doing something and I heard her say something to the effect of, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it was like, if you have a desire and you go and create that, like that's the thing you're meant to do. Something to that effect. I wish I would have written it down because I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, but if that's something completely opposite than your life plan, how does that work? Because the thing that I've channeled a lot is that when it comes to free will anyway, they say the house is already built, meaning
Mhm.
your plan's already built, right? Your blueprint, your roadmap, whatever you want to call it. So they called it a house. Your house is already built. Your free will is simply how you decorate it, meaning how you experience something.
Yes. I love it. Yes, and I think if we do create that other thing that takes us off our life path, and maybe we do have an experience with that, and maybe we learn something or whatever,
Yeah.
I do believe our guides or our other versions of ourselves will find a way to get us back, point us back in the right direction for the thing we're meant to do here.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've taken so many side quests. I already know. I'm a side quest queen. I'm like Gypsy. I'm like, I'm gonna go over here and try this. But
Yeah.
what it I have always discovered is there was deep purpose in that side quest.
Yes.
While you think it's taking the long way or you got off course, it might actually be the fast track. Because
Yeah.
if you take and have a physical experience doing something, you're more likely to have a tangible healing effect from the physical experience and going through that, and it makes it actually happen a lot. The end result or whatever you're trying to achieve or get to actually happen faster because you decided to have a physical experience which invoked physical healing and allowed you to work through it.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Have you have and obviously, we don't say people's names or anything, which I know you wouldn't anyway, but have you had any particular sessions or cases that just kind of blew your own mind at the transformation that took place or what they were able to access?
Yes. Um, but I will say what I want to say is, well, yes, the specifically the one with the healer,
Hmm.
that made that statement that was, it wasn't safe to share their gifts. But I will say, maybe not, might not be just working with somebody with one session.
Yeah.
Because we can have these things where it's like, oh my God, everything just shifted. It could even be a small shift, but everything just shifted from that experience. But I want to I guess I don't want to use the word caution, but I want to just put the information out there that this isn't just all of a sudden everything changes overnight.
Oh, yeah.
We need to be continue to be curious and to
Yeah.
continue to work on ourselves. And that's where I've seen the people that have had the biggest transformations when they dedicate their time to being curious about why this is happening right now, and if they have a goal to do something else. Like, for example, I'll give you a good example of watching somebody um, having a client that had lost everything, like somebody who was a millionaire and then they've lost everything, right? And then they want to try to build a business again and they've got all these blocks about success and power and money, right? And being able to work through all of that and create a whole new business. And watching somebody do this step by step and watching all of those layers of the onion fall
Yeah.
away and become truly a different person and really step into their full potential. That being clear on what that is too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true. An important reminder too, because there's so many people today that are looking for the quick fix.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible to have something shift dramatically or quickly. I mean, I've experienced that multiple times, but it's not the norm. And if I look back, there was years of work before that that I maybe didn't attribute, to that. The same with like overnight success. When people show, oh, where'd they come from? Oh, they've been behind the scenes working their tail off and doing and healing and doing everything that they needed to do to step into that. That's just the first time that you've seen them. It wasn't an overnight success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, I feel like it's important to say that these spiritual experience, spiritual hypnotherapy, whatever you want to call it, even just a spiritual experience, and you know this already, when spirit's talking and we're getting those messages, they are so clear and so simple.
Hmm.
It is not how we think about things on a conscious level. We
Not
make
at
it
all.
very complicated, and we thinking causes suffering. But when it's coming from that other part of ourselves, it is so simple, and it can be such a subtle, what might be seen as a subtle shift, but create a huge transformation.
Yeah.
And just unwinding an old, maybe it came from childhood, maybe it came from a past life, maybe it came from a life as you know, a being on a different planet, but it's like some old belief system that's not even true.
Right.
And we can collapse that just kind of in the moment, right?
Right.
By just that small shift or that message from spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, humans, we're real good at complicating things. Yeah. And simple, like everything is simple. And I think that's why we discount it so much. We've been programmed that things have to be hard. Societal programming, so it has to be hard, it has to be complicated. So when we're presented with simplicity, we discount it,
Yeah,
and we shouldn't, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So it's it's always that moment, the moment you second guess yourself, recognize the second guessing is the ego coming in, going, this doesn't make sense. But here's
yeah,
the thing, spirit rarely makes sense.
right.
They always speak in those incomplete sentences and that breadcrumb trail, and you're like, what the heck is, what does this mean? You
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
But then there'll come a day where you'll wake up and you'll know exactly what it means.
Exactly. I love
Yeah.
that. I love those little, like you said, the breadcrumb, because I love telling people to follow the breadcrumbs. And
Yeah.
another interesting thing to say about these spiritual hypnotherapy experiences, and sometimes people will be like, oh, I still have this little question in my mind. Maybe I made that up, right? But the session doesn't end when the session ends. The work continues, and I always meet with people a week or two afterwards because oftentimes very personal things to them, to whatever story came unfolded, right? Some interesting synchronicity that's very personal, like in the past life a soul said something in a certain way, right? A certain sentence or something. And then this is somebody you feel like is familiar in this lifetime, and they've never said something like this before. And all of a sudden they blurt out the same thing. So these little validating things that happen after the fact
Yeah.
that remind you that was a real experience, and to continue to be curious and continue to follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And when you start to notice, you know this. more of those things will start to happen.
Yeah. I always say that when you're given the first breadcrumb and you do something with it, the next will appear and the
Yeah.
next will appear. But
Yeah.
if you just sit there and look at it and second guess it, well, then nothing's going to progress forward. You have to actually take it and do something with it.
Yeah. Rightly said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Action
that's
behind
what
it.
you're saying with your clients is like, they're, it's not like they wake up and all their problems are gone or that issue is resolved. They're running with it. They're taking that information and applying it forward and giving more and then giving more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to share?
Oh gosh. Well, my whole purpose in doing this is for people to discover their true potential of who they really are and to step into their power of what they came on, to this planet. We all have a purpose here.
Yeah.
We all have a reason that we're here. So I just want to invite people to be curious and to follow the breadcrumbs and to really, it's an act of remembering who we
Yeah.
are on a soul level before all this baggage got, all this stuff, all these, I guess, things we came here to learn. We're here for the contrast,
Yeah.
right? But who am I before all of that? Who I am
Yeah.
at the core? And to
Because
just,
this isn't who you are.
you know,
This is just a temporary suit.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I
Yeah.
usually ask all my guests if there's only one thing that you could share with the world, what would it be? But I feel like you just did. Did you want to add anything else extra to that? Because I feel like getting curious, about that's such a powerful message in itself.
Yeah, and also the other thing I will say is just again, don't discount your inner knowing and your intuition. It's
Yeah.
not just everything, believe it. You have to see it to believe it. Please trust your inner knowing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
think about that statement. See it to believe it. That in itself is a belief, which proves that believing is seeing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or follow you?
Yeah, so my website is Discover Your True Self, but it's Discover Your TRU without the E.
Okay.
So discoveryourtrueself.com would be the easiest way to find me. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
we will link that in the description box below. That way you guys can just go there and click on it, make it real easy. And, obviously go check her out if this is something that you are intrigued or curious about, because you never know what you may find or discover about yourself.
Yeah. And I'll say one other quick thing for
Yeah.
people who just dipping their toe in this and they're curious and they want to know more. I have a monthly group that meets the first Wednesday of every month. It's a low cost, so people can just explore. They can find that information on my website, but it's all in this spiritual hypnotherapy category. A lot of past life, future life, past life as a healer, talking with the dead. So talking in a hypnotic experience with ones on the other side. So
Yeah.
that's been going for 8 years now, and we meet the first Wednesday online of every month. So it's a fun group of people, and it's a great way to just, kind of get curious and
So it's
explore.
like a group hypnotherapy session?
Yeah, so it's a little different as in it's we go in with a specific intention for every month is a different intention, and it's a discussion, and then it's me leading a group and everybody's having their own experience and then sharing if people are comfortable afterwards. So it's a great way to connect with like-minded people too about this subject.
I love that. Yeah, if you're interested in exploring, that's a really good place to start just to kind of get your feet wet a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your wisdom and experience and stories. I'm sure people are going to really enjoy this episode.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super passionate about this subject and I just love talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's a great
I
way to.
hope you write a book one day about you and your grandfather, because I think that would be a really interesting book.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, you guys, we will see you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.